What's up, guys? We're back again, another episode of Daily Fantasy Knockout. I'm your host, Drew, as always, with my co-host, Josh. Today, we're going to be breaking down UFC on Fox 22, Waterson versus VanZant. Josh, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, man, I'm alive. I know that a lot of you guys were worried about me being dead after the last episode last week. So thank you guys for your thoughts and your prayers. I'm back. I can talk again. Thank Christ. So thanks for hanging in there with me last week. Shout out to Daily Fantasy MMA podcast for having us on last week. If you didn't see us on here last week, that's where we were. So you should subscribe to them, give them a follow. So when we appear over there on those double fight card weekends, you can see us, find us. They're delivering excellent content as well. So check them out. That's where we were. I'm alive, but apparently you're sick now. So what's up with that, man?
I don't know, man. I got the bird flu from you. I'm not feeling well. I'm swamped at work with this year-end BS. So what's going on in the world of MMA before we dive in? Cyborg getting screwed.
Yeah, Cyborg getting screwed. Yeah, that's the big news. Holm and Durandamy. Holm is getting a title shot after 2 straight losses. They're having a title shot. They're not waiting a few more weeks for. Cyborg said she wanted, I forget, 10 weeks or 12 weeks or something instead of 8 for her camp to make weight or whatever. And UFC was like, nah. I'm like, this all came as a super shock to me that they were like, we're even going to bring the division in. And then I was even more surprised that they were like going to go ahead and start it without her, which is, I mean, what do you think about that? It's crazy to me that they're going to like try to crown a champion in this division where like they've been trying to build Cyborg up, having her headline events in Brazil and stuff, and now they're just like, yeah, she's not the best. It's Holm or Durandamy, these other 2 people.
I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to make an argument for them, but it's pretty crappy what they did. I mean, she's going to go in there and storm, I think, anyway, and that'll be big money for that fight. So,
yeah. They just need headliners, I guess, and just wanted to just get the ball rolling. It's crazy. A bunch of people have been saying that like when that fight goes down, the Invicta belt will actually be the best belt in that weight class in the world, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of that kind of craziness, Drew and I have sort of a new project in the works. We weren't able to kick it off this week, but hopefully we'll have one, get it going down the line. More of one that's we appreciate all of the fans who are like into the DFS MMA, but it's like for a certain like hardcore fan base, and a lot of people that we talk to, or a lot of like our friends, acquaintances, have only a passing or casual interest in MMA, and so we're trying to like come up with a program that would be kind of more geared toward them, and like kind of we'll have like our friends who are casual fans on to get like their perspective on like we're in so deep in the MMA game that we kind of like don't see what the casual fans are seeing so much. So trying to get their perspective. Excited about those prospects. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's pretty much just a short show, probably 20 minutes. Bring on an acquaintance or somebody that's kind of familiar with the big names in MMA, see what they think, and just talk about MMA a little bit and what's going on, and kind of geared towards the non-daily fantasy players like us. So it'll be a good time. Hopefully you guys will listen to that and watch that. So let's dive in, man. I don't know how long I'm going to last, but
hang in there, dude.
Let's get right in there. We'll do some quick analysis here, and we'll be on our way. We'll be making a bunch of money this weekend. First fight of the night, Sultan Aliyev versus Bojan Velucevic. I can't even say it.
Serbian Steel. You don't know Serbian Steel?
Sorry, player.
I don't know. This fight is kind of weird one to call. Serbian Steel Velucevic has already had 2 fights in the UFC, and they've both been really close. He somehow pulled out a decision over Alessio Di Chirico despite getting outstruck, and then fought to a draw with Michael Graves, who's a pretty good up-and-coming prospect. Velucevic is a former professional Muay Thai fighter. He's long and rangy with his strikes, and he's got some pretty strong grappling as well. But he's not overwhelming in any one area, and he's sort of like doesn't look like he's super comfortable like banging it out in the pocket. He wants to stay like at long range, work his jab, work his like long kicks. So he struggles to like really put. I think he struggles to like really put his stamp on the fight because he's not really like putting it on somebody in any one area. He's just pretty good everywhere. Aliev lost his UFC debut in pretty spectacular fashion to Kenny Robertson. He missed a spinning back kick, and then Robertson hit him with like an overhand left as he was getting reset, and it knocked him clean out. Which is kind of surprising. He's a Dagestani master of sport in Sambo, so that should indicate that he's pretty tough. But this knockout is either a fluke or an indication that his chin isn't very good. He actually had fought a couple of times in Bellator a few years back, going 1-1. Didn't look super impressive there, but he does have a win over current UFC heavyweight prospect Luis Enrique, heavyweight prospect, and this is a fight happening at welterweight. I think they had fought at light heavyweight back then, but that was early in his career. So he's with the Sambo background. He's got obviously excellent takedowns from pretty much everywhere. And between his Bellator and UFC runs, he was just knocking fools out. He'd hit them with one good punch and they would go down. So he's got pretty solid boxing as well. Works his jab and has some pretty good combinations behind it. It looks like decent power, but we only saw him in there against UFC level competition recently for like a minute and a half before he got knocked out by Robertson. He didn't look great there. Robertson is a wrestler and had some success like grappling with Aliev a little bit there. So ultimately, I'm picking Velikovic in a close one. I think that his grappling and wrestling abilities will largely like more or less negate Aliev's, not completely negate Aliev's advantage there, but I think that he'll be able to make up for it with his striking. Striking from long range won't let Aliev get into the pocket really, but this is a really close one, hard one for me to really come down on one side or the other. What do we got in terms of odds and prices?
Aliev comes in at +130. Velikovic is -160. Pricing, Velikovic is 8,600 and Aliev 7,600. Small GPP for Velikovic, maybe.
Yeah, if Aliev's chin really isn't very good, Velikovic is a pretty strong dude. So if he finds it with a straight left or something, he could possibly put him away. Aliev I kind of like at his like discounted rate. I'd think about putting him in there in cash, possibly. Let me see what the finish prop is on these guys real fast. Aliev inside the distance is +347. Velikovic inside is +250. So +250 for Velikovic isn't awesome, but it probably is enough to kind of put you off Aliev in cash. So this is probably just like not one I'll be playing a whole lot of. It doesn't look like there's a ton of finish potential here. Maybe a little bit of Velikovic and GBPs, but I don't love him at his price either. If they were more even, which I think this odds-wise, this fight should probably be at. If Velikovic was a little bit cheaper, I'd be more inclined to play him. So we got flyweights next. You have anything to add, or do you want to jump into the next one?
No, let's dive in.
Okay. Freddie Serrano versus Hector Sandoval.
All right. I'm going to side with Hector Sandoval in this fight. Both these guys, this is a coin flip fight. Both these guys are coming in at 8,100. And Sandoval, he's an alpha male product. Most recently, he fought number 7 ranked Wilson Reyes. This guy's uber aggressive. He's got a super high output. And coming out of Team Alpha Male, his strength is going to be in his wrestling. He showed some pretty good defensive wrestling skills against Reyes. Reyes had some dominant positions, and he used his wrestling well to escape from them. Unfortunately, he was tapped out in the first round. But aside from that, Reyes is an elite BJJ black belt fighter. This guy showed a lot of heart. Some of the issues that I saw, he telegraphed some of his punches, and he kept his hands down, which is never a good thing, especially against big power guys, and some counter punches, especially when you're pushing the pace and you keep your hands down, a quick counter and you're going to sleep. Where else was I at? Anyway, looking at Serrano, Serrano last fought Ryan Benoit, and he had some really aggressive takedowns, really good wrestling. And when I say takedowns, I mean like full-on body slams. He's one of the more accomplished grapplers in that division. Looking at him on the feet, he loads up his strikes, and he kind of telegraphs it. He makes it pretty obvious. He would like take a step back and then fire forward, and Benoit just backed out of the way every single time. So it was very telegraphed. And another issue, he leads with he throws a bunch of like lead kicks, like front kicks, and I forget what it was called, the crescent kick. He was throwing the crescent kick all left and right, and he was throwing it from like off balance, and he left his shoulders very square and open to his opponent with his hands down. So that's another defensive hole that I saw that he could get popped. Good counterpuncher, though. That's one of the things that I most liked about him. He had some really good counterpunches, and that could bode well against Sandoval in this fight. But this fight's pretty close for me. I'm going to favor Sandoval because he's the more aggressive fighter, and he has the wrestling to kind of negate those takedowns from Serrano. They could negate himself. I see them negating themselves, and this one is kind of going to turn into a striking affair. And who did I pick?
Sandoval.
Okay, right. Yeah. In the elongated striking affair, I'm going to side with Sandoval in this fight. Strictly GPP plays for me. Might have some exposure to both of these guys because of their depressed salary, and there is some finish upside here. So I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to both, but I'm probably going to side with Sandoval in this one.
Yeah, he's like you said, slight. You hearing an echo? It's just me.
It's just you.
Okay. Sorry. They're the same price, and Sandoval is the -125 favorite. So you gotta like that. But neither of you is really safe that you think playing the cash. I think. So I agree.
All right, let's jump into the next one. Takeo Mizugaki versus Eddie Wineland.
Okay. I like Wineland here, although both these dudes, I'm fans of both of them. They're both like OGs of the bantamweight division who haven't fought yet, and which is kind of surprising. It's pretty cool they're finally getting it on. But I think Mizugaki can do everything. His offensive wrestling is excellent, but he can grapple. He can kind of do a bit of everything pretty well. His striking is not super powerful. It's more like volume based, and so the problem with him is that Mizugaki's got knocked out in two of his last 4 fights, and he had never been knocked out before. So the question is his chin going? Hey man, I think I'm coming with speakers and it's picking you up. Switching over to you. Okay. Is that better? Yes. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that. I don't know why I was doing that. Anyway. So Mizugaki's been knocked out a couple of times, but he has been fighting guys like Cody Garbrandt, obviously, and Dominic Cruz. So that is and took like a million fast before knocked out. So you wonder if his chin's going. He can still scrap his too, but he's been around for a long time. Wineland kind of had his own comeback. He had 2-year-long life because his jaw broken by Johnny Alberto. Was on the shelf for a year, came back, watched Brian Caraway, looked really gun shy, didn't look good at all. And lost that fight, had another year-long layoff, came back and fought Frankie same signs in July, and got a knockout and much, much better. So hopefully he's back to his kind of old self. With his speed and his power, I think he's going to be a problem for Mizugaki. Wineland is in trouble by players in the past. They've been threatened with a takedown, make him a little bit more gun shy. But Mizugaki's wrestling is a big part of his game. So I like Wineland by knockout in the second round. What do we got in terms of stuff?
Mizugaki comes in at plus 175. Wineland's minus 220. And pricing, Mizugaki is 7,400. Wineland's 8,800. Seems like GPP to me based on your analysis. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah. Both dudes, I don't think either guy is super safe in cash. Based off one pretty solid performance, it's kind of hard to charge. Wineland still going into Signs fight, I'm kind of thinking that he might be done. And Mizugaki is super tough, so he can make it kind of gritty. Wineland's kind of so yeah, play me possibly Wineland cash if I can kind of find a bit of it. Yeah, here. We got props. Mizugaki inside distance plus 670, so no need there. Wineland inside is minus 102. Dang, good. So you want to get in there.
Dude, I think you're cutting out a lot, so you might want to see what you can do while I go over this next fight.
Okay.
Next fight, we got women's bantamweight Leslie Smith versus Irina Aldana. Leslie Smith, she is 8-7. She fights out of Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. She's fought a few times in the UFC, while Aldana is making her UFC debut. I'm going to go with Aldana in this fight. She had really good success in Invicta. She was 4-1, I believe. 2 of those were by TKO, 2 of them by submission. And she also took out Jessamine Duke, who's a former UFC fighter. She's a really high-level boxer. She's very technical on the feet, and she is known in the women's division for her striking. She's really light on her feet. She's got a whole bunch of head movements, throws feints, and her boxing is just on point. She's always pushing forward and thrives on pressuring opponents and breaking their will. Super fast hands, and they sting. They hurt. She flurries opponents, combos. Her boxing is on next level. And she lays it on until her opponents wilt. That's pretty much her game plan. Leslie Smith, she's the exact opposite. She's very slow and plodding. When I watched film on her last year for a podcast, the announcers were saying that, she has this high pace and pushes the pace, and I couldn't disagree harder. She does have some power in her punches and whatnot, but she just tends to stand flat-footed and plod forward and wing punches like, Diaz. Diaz is on a different level, but that, stationary position, go forward, use your hands, fight. Tends to leave herself open a lot when she gets in close in the pocket. She fought Sarah Kaufman, and Kaufman was just lighting her up with these 1-2 combos inside the pocket. But to Smith's credit, she was tough as nails. She's very, very hard to put away. She's very durable. And the key to beating her is pressuring her and getting through that range and beating her. So I'm going to go with Aldana in this fight. Her superior boxing is going to take the crown. This is her UFC debut, but she's on a really high level, and she won her last fight, and all the announcers were like, oh, next up's the title fight, in Invicta, but then the UFC came calling. I'm going to give credit to Smith and her chin in this one, so I'm going to go with Aldana via decision. And let's look at the odds. Leslie Smith, you got me?
Yeah, let me see if this sounds better.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so Aldana comes in at 9,100 as the minus 300 favorite, and Smith is 7,100 as the plus 220. Still isn't sounding awesome.
Anyway, I like Aldana in cash and GPPs. I'm going to fade Smith in this one.
Okay. I'll muddle through as best I can, and then maybe during your next fight I can try to get out and come back in and see if that'll work.
Okay.
All right. So next up we got Scott Holtzman and Josh Emmett. So I like Emmett here. I think he's he had his UFC debut on short notice against John Tuck and looked really pretty solid before breaking his finger pretty gruesomely. He was controlling that fight with his striking for the most part against a pretty high-level striker, so that was pretty impressive. And he only had about a week's notice or something, although he had been training for a title fight that same weekend, so he was in camp. Holtzman is 2-1 in the UFC, and he hasn't really looked very good, and he hasn't really fought very good guys, in my opinion. He TKO'd Chris Adulu in the third round, who Chris Adulu is one of the worst fighters on the roster, was one of the worst fighters I've ever seen make it to the UFC before. So that was super impressive. Then he got out-wrestled by kickboxer Drew Dober, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then he decisioned Cody Pfister, who's another low-level dude. And he got dropped on an elbow by Pfister in that fight. And Pfister's looked pretty undersized. Holtzman's a pretty big lightweight, looks pretty jacked. He's generally a solid athlete, and he's got solid skills everywhere, but I think Emmett is just a better boxer, throws a lot more volume, and has a collegiate wrestling background he's going to fall back on. So he shouldn't be getting taken down and controlled by Holtzman. So I like Emmett here pretty solidly. What do we got in terms of odds and prices?
Emmett comes in at -180. Holtzman is +150. And Emmett is 8,700. Holtzman is 7,500. You like Emmett enough for cash?
Yeah, he's not super expensive. So yeah, I like Emmett. Possibly in cash, GBPs for sure. I don't know that I'll have a whole lot of exposure to Holtzman. I just don't see his finishing potential against a super tough dude like Emmett. So yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next fight, guys. I apologize. I don't mean to be like rushing through this. I'm freaking dying over here. It's that time of year. Alex Morano versus James Muntazeri. Oh, oh man, voice cracked there a little bit. Anyway, I'm going with Muntazeri. I can't even talk. Muntazeri in this fight trades out of Black House. Taekwondo specialist here. He has a Muay Thai black belt, 2-time national champion in Taekwondo, and he's one of the most decorated Taekwondo fighters in the UFC. I'm not going to get into the details of really good, he's got a really good uppercut and all that stuff. He shows a really good chin. When he faces wrestlers, he finds the way to find a home for his punches. Right uppercut, left hook combos is one of his favorites. Throws some flying knees. Some of the issues that I do see with him is he gets careless at times, charging in on his opponents, and he allows them to tie him up really quickly, to his reactive shots, and kind of negates the progress that he has. Keeps his head high a little bit, and tends to drop his hands. So, but I mean, he does have a good chin, but still, I'd rather him not test that chin. He fought Jake Ellenberger, and he kind of disregarded Ellenberger's striking and got hit pretty clean and walked through it. Solid defensive wrestler, especially up against the fence. He fought Charles Oliveira, and it was kind of awkward. Muntazeri wanted to make it a grappling affair, which I didn't understand, and Oliveira took him to the fence and pretty much dominated him and kind of negated his grappling abilities by threatening with takedowns. On the ground, he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's active on the ground. He's got pretty powerful ground and pound. Submission defense is pretty good. He fought off 2 strong submission attempts by Jake Ellenberger, rear naked choke and darts choke. And like I said, sometimes he wants to get himself into a grappling affair, and it kind of makes him less effective. Morano, second fight in the UFC. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Haven't seen too much of this guy. Filled in on short notice against Kyle Noak in January, and he got choked out. No, he didn't get choked out. He won that fight. He's got really good cardio. Josh and I were watching some film on his days in Legacy, and the commentators were, continually emphasizing his cardio and his grappling as his strength. But he was dominated for 2 rounds on the ground, so what's that going to do against a Muay Thai specialist and a purple belt in jiu-jitsu in the UFC? I'm not too sure. On the feet, he's really wild, powerful at best. He's sloppy and off balance at worst. And his wrestling leaves much to be desired on the feet. So in his fight against Kyle Noak, he ducked his head a lot. He threw a lot of these wild windmill swinging punches and a bunch of spinning kicks. And it was really sloppy, and he was throwing stuff together and throwing volume, but it just wasn't crisp and it wasn't technical at all. So with that said, I'm going to go with Montazeri in this one. I'm just not sold on Morano yet. I think Montazeri has the advantage on the feet, and he should be able to move, avoid the swinging strikes of Morano. And I'm not too sure that this fight does get finished, but I'm definitely going to be on Montazeri in this one. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and say Montazeri via decision. Wow. And both these guys come in at -115, so it's a coin flip. And the over-under is at 1.5 rounds. It's favored to go over. Pricing, Morano's 8,400 and Montazeri 7,800. So, yeah, I'm going to go GPP for both guys. I think that's a good play. You could squeeze these guys in. But Montazeri, I really like. I just think he has the experience and the skills, and he's more polished. So I'm going to take him GPPs, and you could talk me into cash on that one as well. So let's go on to the next fight. You back yet, dude?
All right. No, it's still giving me feedback. I don't know why it's doing that. It's really noxious. But go through as best I can. Anyway, the finished props on these guys are Montazeri is +1 finishes. I just said Morano at +251. So like you said, the over is half and the over is at -1. So late round possible. Next we got Brian Barberina versus Colby Covington. So I like here. Hey, can you try one? Can you just can you try muting your mic?
Yeah, point at me when. Yeah.
Okay. How does that sound? Much better. Excellent. I don't know why it's doing that. Cool. Got rid of that feedback. All right. That was super sharp. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So Barberina is the prospect killer lately. He was the first dude to beat Sage Northcutt. He also then beat Warley Alves, who's another big time welterweight prospect. He's super, super tough, and that is his main trait is his toughness, and he's pretty decent everywhere. Again, he doesn't have one overwhelming skill set. He'll mix it up in the pocket, in the clinch, on the ground. He'll just kind of do it all. But he's facing a wrestling specialist in Covington, who's pretty much out-wrestled everyone he's fought. His one loss, I think his only loss, was to the aforementioned Alves, who caught him in Alves' trademark guillotine right off the bat in their fight. Yeah, that remains his only loss. Since then, he's dominated a couple of other dudes. So it doesn't seem like the kind of fight that Barberina can use his typical game plan of wearing the other dude out and then coming on late. Covington's going to be wearing him out with takedowns and top control and ground and pound, et cetera, et cetera. So I like Covington here. I think that he wins pretty solidly. So looking at the prices, Covington is at 8,900 and Barberina is at 7,300. I think Barberina is super tough, super tough. So I'll take Covington by decision here. But with takedowns and tons of ground and pound, he was a really big scorer in his last fight when he just dominated Max Griffin. I don't know that he'll have quite as much luck as Barberina, who trains out of MMA Lab with a solid camp. But I think he takes this one pretty handily. So Covington is the -275 favorite. Barberina is the +275 dog. So I'd be down with Covington in really any format. He isn't super expensive, but he's he's one of the biggest favorites on the card. Barberina might be a look in GBP because he's got that knack for beating these dudes that he's not supposed to beat. He's won almost every time he's been an underdog in the UFC. So he's just got that like innate ability and that toughness and that camp behind him with Benson Henderson and John Crouch. So he might be worth a look there, but I like Covington pretty solidly here.
All right, that sounds good. Let's jump into the next one. Cole Miller versus Masuto Hirota. I'm on Cole Miller in this fight. I'm not too excited for either of this fight, and I'm not too excited about the pick because if you guys have been following MMA at all, you know Cole Miller's pissed at the UFC, and you know he's super in favor of these this union, whatever they want to call it, but it's a union at the end of the day. So is he motivated to do well? I don't know. I don't want to play down narrative street too much, but all that aside, I like Cole Miller in this fight. Both these guys are older and approaching the end of their career, but stylistically, I favor Miller. He's going to have a huge reach. I believe he's 6 inches taller than Hirota, and that's he works to his strengths. He likes to fight long jabs, kicks, double up on jab 1-2s. It's very technical kickboxing. It's not flashy, but it's technical and it gets it done. Pretty good lateral movement for a big guy. Has a very strong tie clinch and uses his long knees and limbs to beat up his opponents if they get in too close to maintain that range. Even though he is tall, he doesn't mind getting in close and fighting it out in the pocket. So he does tend to get hit a fair amount. His last fight, he fought Alex Caceres, and Caceres kind of picked him apart on the feet. But I don't see this being a fight like that. His grappling is easily his best skill set. He's very, very slick, venomous submissions. He has 6 submission wins in the UFC, and I think that's how he's going to win this fight. Hirota, like I said, the first thing I noticed when I watched this film, the height discrepancies, he's really going to have to break through range to make this a fight, but Cole Miller doesn't mind taking it there. Hirota's got a fast set of hands. He's pretty limited with his strikes. He's got a straightforward jab, a looping right hook, and he tends to get countered quite a bit. And that could be a big issue because he's going to have to reach in to break range, and I see him getting picked apart by counters. So Miller in this one, Hirota's going to have to break through the range, and I don't think he has that ability to do that. Hirota wants to take most of his fights to the ground, but that's where Miller succeeds. So this fight could go either way here, but I'm not super confident about this pick, but I like Miller here. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a late submission or he gets a decision victory. So tread lightly on this fight. I'm probably going to fade it in cash, I think. Hirota comes in at -120, Miller's -110, and they're priced at both at 8,100. So it's a coin flip fight. Now that I think about it, I might be confident enough to play Miller in cash for his cheap price because he does have some finish upside. I don't see any avenue for Hirota to win. So I hope Cole Miller comes in there focused, clear head, and gets the job done. So I'm going with Miller in cash in this one.
Okay. His prop is plus 229 for Miller, and Hirota's is plus 324. So Miller's got a pretty substantially better finish prop despite being a very slight underdog. Yeah, I think, like you said, he definitely has the superior upside. Just is he going to come in and fight well? And he definitely did not come in and fight well against Caceres. So that's a question mark for sure. Kind of like makes me want to limit my exposure both ways because it could just end up being like really sloppy. You have no idea what you're going to get. So the last fight on the prelims is Frankenstein, Luis Enrique da Silva, and Paul Craig, UFC newcomer Paul Craig. So Craig is undefeated at 8-0. Frankenstein is undefeated at 12-0. Craig, almost all of his victories have come by submission, but he's sort of a weird guy. Like, he really likes playing guard. Even if he gets top position, he'll roll to his back in an attempt to lock up triangles, arm bars, and stuff. And I just don't know that that's a super viable avenue for victory in the UFC. Most of his competition has been pretty bad too. His last 2 fights were in Bama in England, and they were pretty solid guys with actually like decent winning records. But everyone else that he fought before that was either like inexperienced at the time or ended up having like a really terrible record after he fought them. So not a whole lot to glean from that, but it was kind of cool that pretty much all of his fights were on YouTube. So that was nice to actually get to see him fight. He does not look good on the feet. He's developed a kicking game, but he's not comfortable like throwing punches at all. His chin rises into the air pretty much immediately as soon as he throws or defends punches, which is going to be bad news for him against Frankenstein, I think. But he can kick. He likes to kick, try to maintain distance. He can wrestle a little bit, but again, it's hard to see. He didn't really look dominant in that area against like the solid competition that he had. He's a really good scrambler, and he's really good in transitions, and that was like his main, skill, other than getting submissions from his back. He'd also kind of like lock guys up in kind of weird positions and then tee off with ground and pound, whether it was from guard or from some top position that he got in a weird scramble. But again, most of the dudes he's fighting are pretty inexperienced. So I don't know that I'm not sure that he's a viable fighter at the UFC level with the style that he's got. Frankenstein, meanwhile, is I keep calling him that because that is like probably the most apt name in the UFC. Dude just keeps coming forward no matter what. He has been dropped in his 2 UFC fights and his fight right before coming into UFC against UFC veteran Ildemar Alcantara. So that's not a good look. But he's got insane toughness and a really good ability to recover. And I don't think Craig's going to be testing his chin here anyway, so it's not really an issue. But he's devastating in the clinch, especially. His boxing could use some work. He throws lots of like wide looping strikes. His kicks are very, very strong, very devastating, and he's perpetually aggressive. And I think the problem for Craig here is that he's going to be mostly trying to clinch up and get takedowns from there, and because his shot, I think Enrique is going to be able to stuff from distance. So I like Enrique to beat Craig up on his way to a TKO in the first or second round. But that Craig warrants a little bit of exposure in piece because of his submission ability. De Silva doesn't look great off his back, but he looks better in top position, which I think is also like another benefit that he'll have Craig's style, because Craig can get a takedown, rolls to his back, where De Silva is much better. So I like De Silva here. What do we got in terms of prices and odds?
Craig comes in at plus 175, and De Silva comes in at minus 220. De Silva's 9,000, and Paul Craig is 7,200.
Yeah, so I like. This is a GBP fight here. I'm gonna consider De Silva in cash too, although he might be a little bit risky just because of his style. But I think that he's a terrible stylistic matchup for Craig. So Craig, with a small amount of GBP exposure because of his submission skills, but definitely will have a lot of De Silva. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the field will be on him as well, just because he's a knockout artist, and people are going to see his 2 knockout victories or his 2 finished victories in the UFC. So that's kind of a bummer. But before we get to the main card, we should probably do our Patreon plug. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, guys. So Josh and I, like we say every show, we're trying to make this show a little better. So please look into our Patreon link on our YouTube page. And what Patreon is we ask our listeners to donate any amount of money, $1, $10, $1,000, anything you want to make this show better. And, every little bit counts, and we thank you guys for listening, and we want to make this show better for you. So with that said, let's move into the main card here. Moving along quickly, Alan Jouban versus Mike Perry.
This should be a barn burner.
Yeah, this is going to be the fight of the night. These dudes are going to throw all sorts of leather, and I think somebody's going to go down. I'm going to lean Jouban on this one. I like Jouban in this fight. He's a southpaw, aggressive fighter, and very hittable. He fought Bilal Muhammad in his last fight and put on a show. I think it was the fight of the night. with his uber aggressive style, he gets hurt a ton. And he's open to a bunch of punches and throws a bunch of combos, takes a bunch of combos. He's strong in the clinch. He throws elbows in tight. He has good wrist control, strong up against the fence. On the ground, he's a brown belt under Eddie Bravo, and he's normally going to have the advantage on the ground over his opponents, and I'm not sure why he doesn't try to take the fight to his opponents more than he does. But I like Joban, like I said. Perry, the best quote I've heard from him was, "I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but I'm a black belt with these hands." He's a wild fighter, smaller guy for a welterweight, but still he's aggressive, throws big power, very explosive, and he's super hittable as well. Throws some leg kicks with punching combos, loads up on his strikes from range. Kind of looks like a poor man's Cody Garbrandt, but he's nowhere near that level. You kind of watch him, and I kind of think that. So
it's the face tattoos.
What's that?
Face tattoos. That must be what it is.
Yeah, it must be. So I'm going to go Joban in this one, but if you're going to go with Perry and GPPs, wouldn't hate on you one bit. I'm going to have exposure to both of these guys. Joban comes in as the underdog at plus 105. Perry is minus 135. Joban is priced at 7,700 and Perry is 8,500. So I love me some Joban at 7,700. Fading this in cash, too volatile for me, so I'm going to go GPPs.
Yeah, the first props on these guys, Perry is inside distance is plus 116, which is bananas. And Joban is plus 193. So I think that's a little bit surprising. I'm surprised that Joban is a dog here. He's much more experienced, a lot more. He's hittable, but so is Perry. I'm kind of expecting Joban to wrap an ankle around his neck. I hope anyway, because Perry's kind of not a great guy. If you've been following any part of the Mike Perry Chronicles, not an upstanding citizen for sure. And Joban seems like a quality dude, action fighter, definitely like him. So this fight's gonna be crazy. Anything else to add, or should I get into Faber and Pickett?
Nah, Faber and Brad Pickett, let's ride.
All right, so I think this fight is actually gonna end up being like pretty close. Both dudes are at the end of their careers. This is obviously Faber's retirement fight, and I'm shocked to see that he's as big of a favorite as he is. I know Pickett hasn't looked great lately. He got killed by Yuri Alcantara in his last fight, but the dudes that Pickett's been getting knocked out by or finished by are offensive dynamos. Alcantara most notably, and then he got knocked out by Thomas Almeida a couple fights before that by a flying knee. But he had been smashing up Almeida in the first round of their fight. So he's still got some punching power. And I almost picked Pickett here because he just puts his combinations together a lot better than Faber does. Faber's just kind of like a one and done striker at this point. He's pretty good in the clinch, and he's always been good in scrambles, good with the guillotine. But Pickett's not a bad grappler or wrestler in his own right, and I think that Faber's lost a step in terms of his explosiveness, both of his striking and his wrestling. So if he catches Pickett with an overhand right, if Pickett's chin's completely shot, I mean, he can shut the lights off. But I think this fight ends up being like a pretty close one, and I ultimately picked Faber to win just with the scrambling, the clinch ability. Ultimately, I like him to get like just a little bit more top position in this fight and kind of keep Pickett, who's more of like wants to stand and bang in the pocket, kind of keep him off balance and take a decision. So looking at the odds, like I mentioned, Faber is the minus 400 favorite, which is the heaviest on the card, which is still like very surprising to me. I know that he's got that reputation as a guy who only loses to the very best, but he just got completely outclassed by Jimmy Rivera. Excuse me. Before that, got completely outclassed by Dominic Cruz. Before that, barely beat Frankie Saenz. So he's just not at the level that he was and hasn't been at that level for a few years. Pickett is, I think, a dangerous in-game opponent, not elite by any stretch, but I don't think that he deserves to be the plus 300 dog, which is what he is here. Pickett comes in at 6,000, and Faber comes in at 9,600. So for his giant salary relief, I might play Pickett in cash. Let's see what the finish prop is here. The over is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at -140. Faber inside distance is +129, which is pretty good. Kind of surprising. Pickett's inside distance is +1009. Faber hasn't been finished in forever. That's, I guess, not super surprising. But I guess I just don't trust Faber to score enough to pay off his price. I don't think that he's very likely to finish despite that finish prop. I mean, he'd have to catch a kind of patented guillotine at this point, but like I said, he's kind of predictable with that and with his overhand right. Those are like his main two moves at this point. So I think this is one that I'll probably play more in GBPs and not really have a ton of exposure to either dude. Maybe Pickett in cash because I think that he can make it. I think the line should be much closer than it is. So he could be kind of a punt play that could potentially steal your decision if he can put more volume on Faber and allow you to pay up elsewhere on the card. So you got anything to add to that?
No, man, I like it. I don't hate Pickett in cash. Faber's going to have that hometown crowd, that hype and all.
That's gonna be crazy. I can't believe he's not at least co-main event retirement fight. I hope he gets a good send-off. I mean, big fan of his. Seems like a pretty swell dude, and was a pioneer for the lower weight classes forever. So I think it's about time that he hung him up. He doesn't really have anything else to accomplish in the sport, but sad to see him go nonetheless.
All right, let's jump into Sage Northcutt versus Mickey Gall. This is the co-main event of the evening. Everybody, I'm going with Gall in this fight. I think Gall finishes this fight in the first or second round via submission. And I think that because Sage Northcutt is absolutely useless on the ground, yet he continues to put himself into grappling affairs, and he wants to do that. And I was reading an article of Brett Apley, he writes, obviously you guys know who Brett is, BB Bomb. He writes for Roto Grinders, and you guys should all pay up for his premium account. He's got some really good insight in there on his MMA beatdowns. And he mentioned, and it was a good point too, I picked up on it after I read it, Sage Northcutt always tries to engage in grappling affairs and wrestle with these guys, and he thinks his wrestling and his grappling is on the same level of these guys when it's really not. Sage is kind of like that video game character, karate guy, pretty boy. He's talented on the feet. He's a high-end striker. He's got tremendous karate ability. His striking is absolutely beautiful. It's really smooth, quick, elusive hands, everything you want in a stand-up fighter. But he's just brutal on the ground. He fought Enrique Martin at UFC 200, and he was almost choked out or tapped out 2 times, I believe. He's just a disaster on the ground, and that's why I'm going to favor Gall in this fight. Gall has since been training with TriStar Gym with Rory and GSP and up in Montreal. And a lot of the crowd's going to be like, oh, this guy just beat CM Punk. Big deal. He's not that good. Let's take Sage. And I think this is a good opportunity for you guys to get in on Gall because he's an aggressive striker as well. He's not super polished, but his ground game is super dangerous. And I think if and when he gets this fight to the ground, it's over quickly. He's really good at taking the back. He has really long limbs to finish his chokes. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And it's just the perfect recipe for Sage to go down. And people see Sage as like this next up-and-coming thing. And I think he's going to be good, but he really needs to work on his ground game. And I don't think it's going to develop to the level it needs to be in the short time that he has been in the UFC so far. So I'm all over Gall in this one. I think he has a decent enough stand-up game. And he's going to get this fight to the ground where he's a wizard. And Sage Northcutt's going to be tapping out in the first or second round. Looking at the odds, Mickey Gall is -120 favorite. Sage Northcutt is -110. And the pricing, Gall is 8,200 and Sage Northcutt is 8,000. That's pretty fair pricing and odds. Yeah, I'm going to be on Gall on this one. I like him in GPP, and you could talk me into cash as well. More of a GPP lineup, in my opinion, for this card. So we're going to build a GPP lineup here shortly after Josh gets through this main event. But yeah, I'm on Gall here, man. I think a lot of people are going to want to pick Super Sage, but I'm on Gall. That's where I'm at.
I think, I don't know, man. I'm a bad chemist, so maybe I didn't touch everything you said, but I think it's just kind of crazy to be super in on Gall. I mean, I know that he's looked pretty dominant, and Northcutt has not looked up to him like a lot of his last couple of fights. But Northcutt looked like fighting guys who are UFC caliber. None of the dudes that fought were brought in specifically to lose to him. He might have gotten some touches, but he was fighting guys already in the UFC. And he beat a few of them. He lost to Barbarina. He didn't look very good against UK Marin. He didn't very good. But to assume that like Gall's on one crew or look awesome against the guy who actually belongs in the UFC, which I think we can agree that Northcutt belongs here. He doesn't deserve to make as much money as he's making or the profile he's making based on merit alone. But this is definitely going to be the stiffest test in Gall's career. I think that Northcutt warrants exposure just for that. I mean, if Gall comes through this comes through this test with flying colors, then yeah, we can start talking about how he's awesome. We'll have actually beaten a dude who can fight, unlike anyone else that Gall's fought so far. So I think this. I agree, GPs, but I think you got to play on both sides for that reason. Anything to add to that or rebuttal?
No, I mean, that's fair. Maybe I'm just looking one-sided. I like Gall in the matchup, and I'm going to put my money on Gall. So, all right, let's jump into the main event. Paige VanZant is the main event versus Michele Waterson, and Paige is my girl because she's really nice to look at. Josh, take it away.
Wife character's rolling her eyes really hard at you right now. That's fair. I'm really excited to see Paige and Sage Rage in the cage.
Good one, dude. You're the best.
How many more can I get in there? I'll be the 20th millionth dude to make that joke this week. I don't care. I love it. Puns and rhyming. Anyone want a peanut?
All right, carry on, you loser. Nobody cares.
I'm sorry. Okay. So in terms of the main event here, VanZant bores me a little bit with her last fight. I think that she, despite like the highlight reel knockout that she got, I think that was more detrimental than anything else to her because she did not look good against Beck Rawlings. Circling on the outside, and Brian Stan was talking about how her strategy was to try to tire Rawlings out, but she wasn't doing that at all. She wasn't making it work at all. She was just circling around the outside, throw some like BS kicks or like 1-2, and like get out and circle. She didn't look like she wanted to engage at all, and that sort of worries me. She looked super, super tough against Namajunas. I mean, she got completely smashed by Namajunas, but she managed to go 5 rounds and take this giant beat down. And you got to wonder, despite you know, to take that beat down, you got to wonder if her confidence was shook or her toughness, her I guess confidence in her ability to get in there and brawl with people was shaken by Namajunas just owning her for 5 rounds or 4.5 rounds or whatever it was. So I ultimately picked VanZant here because if she fights like she fought before the Rawlings fight, I think this is her fight to win. I think that she at least had a style that would be suited to beat Waterson, who is obviously her nickname is the Karate Hottie. So she's got the kicks and stuff, but she's not very good at maintaining range and distance. She backs up in straight lines and gets back to the cage too much. Both of them are pretty good scramblers. Both of them are like wild and aggressive grapplers without a ton of discipline, which could lead to some like exciting back and forth action on the ground. I think that Paige ultimately would win out in that battle with her size and strength. Waterson might be a natural atom weight. That's what the division she held the championship in Invicta before coming to the UFC. So I think she would win that ground battle. And so I think that she pushes pressure, closes Waterson down, gets him to clinch, beats her up, takes him down, makes her work on the ground. I think she could work her way to a late TKO victory here. But But if she can fight the way she did against Rawlings, I think that Waterson can definitely take this one. So I think this with all the grappling wild exchanges that I kind of expect here, I consider taking this one in cash. You want to run down the prices real quick?
What's that?
You want to run down the prices and odds real quick?
Yeah. Waterson is -110. VanZant's -120. Pricing: Waterson 7,900 and VanZant's 8,300.
So both reasonably priced. So I'm gonna think about stacking this one in cash. What's the finish prop here? The over under.
It's favored to go over 4.5 rounds.
Okay, so there you go. We should have a pretty active battle here in terms of grappling, takedowns, reversals, strikes. Hopefully, something like that. So that should be lots of score. So cash stack here, and I play both of them in GPPs. Also, I think VanZant's probably more likely to catch a sub, but Waterson has got a pretty good guard herself. So Waterson's side distance is +504, VanZant side distance is +201. So yeah, I mean, ultimately winning VanZant by TKO in the later rounds. So I'll lean VanZant in GPPs, but I think it's a good one to stack in cash. Anything that you want to add or to that?
No, we talked off the air. I agree with that. I think it's a good cash stack play. But we're going to make a GPP lineup here, guys. We'll go through this real quick. Who do we like first, Josh? Guaranteed finish. De Silva?
Yeah.
All right, let's move down the line.
We got to get Joban or Perry in there.
Agreed. Let's go with Joban. He's the little savings.
Yeah.
We got 8,300 in there.
Covington, I think, is pretty safe bet, and Emmett, one of those two.
Covington?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with Covington. He screwed me last year in the Alves fight, that little punk. All right, 8,100 pop.
Do you like any dogs here to finish?
I like me some Mickey Gall.
Yeah, if you want to get me there.
Maybe some, you want to throw Gall in there? Maybe a little Miller, too? No, Muntasri, 7,800.
Okay.
Okay, we got 8,400. You have the stage. Not much to pick from. Paige?
Yeah. That works.
All right, guys, that just gives you an idea of GPP, one of the GPPs that we'll probably be throwing out there. So that wraps up the show today, guys. As always, thank you so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at DailyFantasyKO. Send us your tweets. We always answer. We love hearing from everybody. Give us a like. Download us on iTunes.
I got it, too. I got it. Yeah. So give us a like down there on the YouTube video. Give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen on, iTunes, Stitcher, Play, whatever. Any sort of positive rating or feedback, we really appreciate it. If you have any constructive criticism for us, hit us up at dailyfantasyknockout.com or on Twitter. I'm at Stonewall MMA. Drew is at Beanie16. Like I said, check out our Patreon page. There are rewards for patrons there at all the different levels. So if you are into the show, fans of content or fans of us, help us out. Help us grow this thing. We are, by the next time, yes, we should, hopefully we should be on some new equipment. So thank you guys for those of you guys who are already pledged. We really appreciate that, helping us upgrade this, make this a better product for you. So, is that it?
Yeah, that's it, guys. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy the fights. It's on Fox. Free fight. We'll be back at you in 2 weeks on December 30th. It's a Friday for UFC 207, the return of the rowdy one, Ronda Rousey. So until then, good luck this weekend. And for Josh, this is Drew. Peace.
Peace.